Brothers, we are not professionals with Pastor Cam and
Bobby.
What's up, y'all? Hey, we're really excited for this episode. You want to check this out? I asked Bobby a couple questions about missions, about singleness, about real estate, about his involvement in the church. I think that you're going to be really encouraged. Bobby, I appreciate your time.
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, all the way from Louisville, Kentucky. You guys are going to dig this. Hey y'all, brothers, we are not professionals. Pastor Cam, and I've got my dear friend Bobby with me. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, man. Yeah, it's good to be here, man.
Hey, good to have you. Bobby is from Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. He's visiting here, and just thought I'd sit down and take a little time. We're on the front porch, so if you hear a little background noise, that's okay. We're having fun with it. It's a beautiful day here. Yes. So, hey, Bobby, I thought it'd be cool just for folks to get to know you.
Yeah.
Hear your story a little bit. The idea here of the podcast is, brothers, we are not professionals. So then it's hearing from people who serve the Lord. They're Christians. They're not professionals. You know, they're just real folks doing ministry, living life. That's right. You, right?
Yeah.
So
try to be.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, our history goes back probably to 2013.
Yeah.
So how many years is that?
12. About 12 now.
12 years.
Yeah.
Bobby is just like a dear friend who comes alongside ministers, and, I think of you like as a churchman, involved in the church. You understand the life of the church, but always just helpful to guys in the ministry. And that's kind of what I thought about talking about is that, well, yeah, why don't you tell them like what you do? What do you do for a living?
So I do real estate for a living as my vocation. I get the joy of working with my family. I've always worked with my family primarily, and we have other agents and people in our offices and stuff. But it's just been that for 25 years now.
Yeah.
So it's been a lifelong thing of working and dealing with people, meeting people.
What do you think you enjoy most about selling houses?
So I love houses. I love the process, but it really is meeting people of all kinds of just backgrounds and needs. Each story is different. No one person's process is the same, which is I think I have a heart for ministry also, because no one person is the same. We all have a different process and a different thing we're walking through life in.
Yeah.
And that's true in the real estate world as well, as people are life situations. Goals, everyone has a different path, and we get to come alongside people and help them and serve them.
I like you told me once that, like sometimes you're walking with like a married couple, let's say, and they're going through a difficult time.
Yeah.
And they're letting you into their life a little bit. Yeah. Like tell us how that goes sometimes without giving names.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll never do that. People, you can have people who are having marriage struggles and nobody knows, and you're having to help them maybe sometimes find new paths forward. Sometimes you get to actually work with people and hear their story and just, they kind of work things out.
Yeah.
And
I think what you've told me before is like how you might even have you've shown the home, but there's this extra hour in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they're just telling you, opening up about their lives, and you are able to help them kind of navigate. I mean, buying a home's a big deal.
Yeah. It is. And, there's so many life situations. It could be someone who has got a child who has special needs, right? And they need to find a new home to meet that child's need. And that's a struggle for them, Maybe it's a financial stretch. They're having to figure out how much can we gain here to move there. Yeah. And you're having to work with them through numbers and very personal things sometimes.
Single moms, grandmoms, whatever.
Widows.
Yeah, helping them navigate different situations. Yeah. Well, I love that about what you do, and I love that it is a family business. You've been in it for a long time, so you've seen all sides of it, the brokerage side, the selling side. You do lean on your brother, you lean on your mom, and so it's been a really cool part of your life. And then I just know, as a Christian, you're able also to take it beyond the buying and the selling of the house, beyond a transaction. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than just a transaction. You really do learn that people are trusting you, as you see in ministry, right? People are trusting you with their highest asset, their highest valuable earthly asset.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't take that lightly.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, a home is an investment, so there is a financial aspect to it, and you are helping them think wisely about that.
Yeah.
It's like you want the best for them,
Right.
as they take this step in life, whether it's a first-time home buyer or it's making an investment, whatever.
Right.
Also, talk about this.
Well, I would say it's like when you all were back in Louisville, right?
Yeah,
we were buying and selling homes and whatnot. And you said, you really helped me, you educate. I noticed you educate people. And, I'm not trying to do a class with each person, but I do want people to understand the process and what they're doing and why they're doing it. The more they commit to that process, the more they are committed to a lifelong strategy and goal. And I think that's a big important part, is helping people understand their own process.
Yeah. Another thing I appreciate about real estate is not only this investment in families and homes and people, whatever,
right,
but it's an investment in the community,
It is.
And without giving like where you live exactly, talk about that aspect of caring for the community as a whole and seeing growth and seeing, businesses come in and just a thriving of the community.
Right. Well, one of the fundamental principles of real estate is the highest and best use of land and the resources of land and buildings and structure. And so when you're in a community as a realtor, you're kind of also a safeguarder of the community. You want to see the community prosper. You want to see housing and commercial go ways that benefit the whole, particularly if you live in that community, right? It's really trying to keep in mind that we are, in some ways, protectors of value. And that it's part of our job. And so I really care about how the community I live in grows, and like most of America, we're all facing growing pains, housing needs, housing issues, all those things that come along, and we're learning more and more. A city and county ordinance really impacts how a city can grow, or doesn't grow, and so we try to have a better voice into those things when we get the opportunities to speak into them.
And having been in the same community for how long?
Oh, my entire life. I mean, I live in the same town I
That's
grew
right.
up in.
And your mom, even before you, so there is a long-term commitment there. It's not just like, hey, I'm the new agent on the block or whatever.
Right.
There really is I've seen this when, it's like I'm not saying it was this small, but like a one traffic light kind of town.
It was that town.
It was that.
It was that town.
Yeah. But so you've seen a lot of change. And, sometimes you've got folks in areas and it's okay. Some people prefer to be more in rural areas and some in more developed city areas. Sometimes they don't want the change or they don't want the growth.
Yeah, people don't.
And you have to be sensitive to that, I'm sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
That's right.
You're not in it just to make a buck. That's not really what it is. But you do want to see the community thrive and take steps forward to be, places for all people, not
right.
just what it was and only for.
Right. When my parents moved there in the early 70s, that town was, when we grew up in, was really rural. Like, it was a 2-lane road going out over hills and through a valley, and it was out there. Today, it is literally a bedroom neighborhood of the Louisville metro area.
Yeah.
We're literally, the town that touches Jefferson County is right there at the Louisville city limits.
A growing suburb of Louisville.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's just expanding out, and so that brings pains, right? Road issues and all that stuff, and you're helping people remember. We all want growth and amenities, but that also means some pain that comes with that.
Change.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that in my life and what I do in ministry, I mean, a lot of times a helpful conversation for me to have is with other leaders.
Right.
And while you do real estate, you understand the nature of change.
Right.
And how it is beneficial, and navigating that, whether it be the church or whether it be a community or whatever, really taking helpful steps, being sensitive to the needs of others and realizing not everyone's there, but trying to get everyone to move forward. Like
the
we served on
past
that.
has to meet the future in its present moment, and the past wants to hold on to the past all the times, and the present wants that past, but they're part of the growth that's bringing it. And so you have to help people understand their present day, what the realities are.
Say that again. Say it again.
The past and the future meet in the present.
Yeah.
And our job is to help people. Part of our job is to help people understand, like, you want to move out here because of the things this small town offer, but you're part of that growth that's brought the influx of people and the strains that a small one like traffic light that's now like 7, and multiple things, and I mean just multiple commercial and neighborhoods. It's the high school where I went to high school is believed that we're going to be the largest high school in the state in the next year or two.
Wow.
So that's the type of growth that my community is experiencing. And so you have older institutions, like the church.
Yeah.
An older church has to realize it has to meet the present needs for the future growth.
Adapt, yeah. Well, and one of my convictions is that we don't have to change our theology or change the things that matter, right. But there is an adaptability just to the culture at large. And I think that is, in a sense, what Christians are called to do, like where we are called to meet the present wherever it is, and
right.
And to find creative ways to do that,
That's right.
And as for me to meet people with the timeless gospel truths
right.
of Jesus and change and transformation, yet they may not be met in traditional ways. So
right.
to think creatively of how to engage folks, yeah, that's good.
That's I think too. It's part of as you were saying that as someone who's not a professional in the church, right? So I don't vocation at work in the church,
right?
But I'm also mindful that as a person who sees people moving in, those are people, but those are also people who have spiritual needs.
Yep.
And so that part of my life is reminded as I see all these people coming to the area. We have 100 in the geographical area that surrounds with like a 30-mile radius. This was like a decade ago. There was 180,000 within a 30-mile radius of unchurched people. 180,000 of unchurched within a 30-mile radius. We couldn't build enough churches fast enough to fill that capacity. Right. And so we have to be mindful as the church, right? Yeah. And as people who are seeing people come in, who can point people to the church. These are people, not just numbers, not just statistics, but actual souls.
Yeah.
That we have the opportunity. And I don't get to every time, and I have to be very mindful of when I speak to people and try to help them ask questions about the community that allows me to engage them.
Yeah.
And to share opportunities possibly for the gospel.
Yeah.
And for the church opening. I've got to introduce a lot of people who say, hey, where do you go to church?
Yeah.
I get to share that.
Yeah. And these are places where these families, people can meet others. I mean, find community and continue to thrive.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Well, cool. Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and go to another question. That was great. That was good just to hear all of that. So, yeah, Bobby does real estate. Bobby also, hopefully it's not too sensitive. This is a podcast. We don't know who's watching. But you're single, right?
Yeah.
Single guy. You've had some...
I've always been.
You've had some romantic interests, here and there. But talk to us about that. This is something I thought to bring up with you, and I know it's a little sensitive, but we're friends. We're lifelong friends here. But I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about, especially within the church context.
Right.
Just in the world, I mean, I'm sure I don't know the statistics on singleness, but I believe the Bible talks about singleness as an option. Not everyone is called to be married or is to be married. I believe marriage is great.
Right.
You support
Absolutely.
marriage. Yeah. I support marriage, male and female, right? So we're clear on that. But talk to us about your singleness, but in particularly, like how the Lord has used that, in your life, but also in the life of others. And it's kind of like what you do in real estate. That's kind of the point of all this is for people to hear like how the Lord uses everybody in a way, right? Like everyone's gifted in a different sort of way, gifts, talents, abilities, callings.
Right.
And this kind of falls into that category. So tell us about that. Tell us about being single, Bobby. You're in your early 50s.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
Time has flown. Because as we're talking about this, my mind was just going back to kind of when I returned to church in my mid-20s. I'm like, that's almost half my life ago.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the church, but there was a period I had pulled away for, late high school and through college. And in my, probably around 23 or 24, I came back and just starting life really, in many ways. And
some of that real quick, some of that was just some rebellion.
Yeah.
Some of that was, Lord, what are you doing? Are you real? I mean, we won't necessarily get into your testimony, but I think that is a part of your story. But the Lord, got your attention and said, "Hey, you're mine."
Yeah.
And you said, "All right, I surrender. I'm going back." That's kind of
And I had
that.
There was just things that one, you're just in that phase of life too. Most people, statistically, a lot of young people pull away in their late teens, and a lot don't return until they're married, which is late 20s or 30s now.
That's true.
And so I kind of beat a few averages there, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's singleness is. I don't know that I always say I'm going to be single.
Right.
You're open to what the Lord leads into.
That's good.
And when Paul says it's great to be single.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
I think there's one frustration I feel sometimes in the church is that singleness is sometimes put as a second tier.
Yeah.
But you can serve a lot.
Yeah.
And we should be serving a lot, all of us. And it is true as a single person, you have time that's different. I've had friends who are newly married or single and then get married and they have kids. When you get children, your lives get a little more strained. My friendship with
those
who've
more
had
people
kids,
involved and there's more time.
It's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Your commitments have to prioritize in a different way.
Yep.
Time allotment plays a lot into that.
Yeah.
And as single people, we have a little more time flexibility without the kid element, particularly.
Yeah. And that would go for like here we are in a college town, and there's a number of college students, and so they may have some more flexibility with their time.
That's right.
They're not tied down to commitments like children or children's ball schedules or whatever. You know what I mean? So
when I first started working in ministry, it was did sixth grade for 2 years, and then that second part of that after about 6 months, started working the youth ministry in our church, on the Wednesday evenings, and kind of as a feeder from what sixth grade was children at that time. So I kind of saw myself as a feeder from children's ministry.
Yeah.
And the Sunday school director and teacher that they got to know as a feeder into the youth ministry. So when they came into youth ministry, that's the guy I see every Sunday already.
Consistency.
So you help give them a consistency feeding into it, and you just kind of build.
Well, and I was thinking other stages of life, like you become an empty nester, and all of a sudden you've got a little bit more time. So the time is a factor. But let's talk about, because I know the Lord has used you in this way, like you were headed in that direction of the different folks that you've invested in. I mean, I feel that the Lord has given you that gift of singleness, but also gift of like wisdom. I mean, you've used your time and a little bit more of this freedom of time to invest in others.
Right.
So just share a little bit about that. Like,
can I go back on the question about college students and being able to serve?
Sure.
And we're going to come back to that one.
Yeah.
So when I started working at youth ministry, a lot of those volunteers who weren't the youth pastor or, the clergy of the church, they were college students. It was like people like Adele and Heather, who were dating at the time, were married now.
Sure.
And Dave and Tim and just a few others, that we were all college age, and we really formed a really strong ministry team. And as they got married, some didn't, some had kids. Adele and Heather, we were just at church, and we were at a different church than we were a few years ago, actually. Sure. So life takes us different ways and then brings you back together. But we were talking about how long our friendship had been and how it was rooted in that youth ministry of 25 years ago. And so we were reminding ourselves of the fruit of that time.
Yeah.
So I would encourage any college student, plug in to a local church.
That's right.
Give. and particularly give generationally to those who are a little bit younger.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
just consider it like I can go be in a college ministry for my needs.
Yes.
It's how can I be a part of a college ministry that's serving the next generation.
That's right. Yeah, and maybe that is like how the conversation needs to be steered here. It isn't so much about singleness, but it is just about serving.
It's serving.
And having a heart to do so. I mean, you could be single and not give a rip about people or your local community, and just kind of be self-serving.
Right.
So I think that is really the point of this
and we all struggle with that. So you can do it with people together as a single person.
Oh, yeah.
It makes the serving more joyful. It adds that joy even more onto it.
That's right. Well, and I was thinking of that too. Like our friendship was formed, while I'm married and have children. Our friendship was formed out of your willingness and investment into our family. You know what I mean? Like you're friends with me and my wife and my children. They almost refer to you as like Uncle Bobby or something. But that is like the relational dynamic that takes place if you avail yourself to that, if you open yourself up to that.
Right.
That's good. Well, you've had the opportunity to mentor a number of men. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like discipleship in a way.
Yeah.
Through real estate to even open your home for some of these guys to stay with you while they're in college.
Yeah.
I mean,
my home has been interesting. As you know, the story of how I've used my home through the years, up until recently now. But I when I bought my first house, I was wanting to make sure I got good housemates, right? So I kind of did a self-imposed thing. I rent to seminary students because we were close to a seminary, and they would come and serve in our church.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I could have a housemate and who would treat my house well and be a good housemate, or find a student who was coming into college, kind of like needing to get started, wants to get away from mom and dad's house, right? But give them a safe place. And so it's like help them get out, learn how to pay a bill or two, learn how to start managing some money.
Yeah.
And to
many
grow,
of these young guys
but also serving them in small group ways too. So it's like a couple of those two things together, some spiritual with the practicals of becoming an adult and growing. And I so wish I had somebody in my life, but I was their age.
All of them ended up meeting like a spouse and getting married.
All but one got married.
That's what moved them out of your house.
All but one got married.
That's hilarious. Well, I do want to point that out, just even taking time to interview you and talk to you. I just think that has been such a ministry into people's life.
Yeah.
And each one of those young men I know are thankful for you. And, to some of them, you kind of held their feet to the fire, like on paying your bills and waking up on time. And not that you were being their dad or whatever, but you were giving them a good little nudge.
Talk like, hey, this doesn't work in life. You've got to meet your commitments.
Yeah. I think that's a real blessing. Yeah. Cool. Lastly, I just was thinking to talk to you about, your heart for the nations, and, you enjoy travel. I mean, that's, but you could say that's God-given, I mean, that's really cool. But one of the ways that you and I even got to connect was by traveling. So talk to us about that. Like, where does that heart for the nations come from? Your willingness to serve in those ways. Not everyone's willing to get on a plane and go.
Right.
But you are. And then like how you've seen God use that in your life.
Yeah. So first thing, I had a huge fear of flying until I went on my first mission trip overseas.
I don't think you've ever told me that.
Huge fear. I didn't fly much. I flew once in high school to DC for a high school trip, and that was about it.
Huh.
And so my first real trip was to Bolivia, South America, and that's a few hours in the sky. So it got me over my fear of flying.
Yeah.
I was like, I tell people when I have a fear, just go on a real long flight and you'll be fine. So, I love to travel. But honestly, as you were saying that, and I've thought about this through the years a little bit, what is that heart? Why did God open me up to this?
That's right.
And really a love for it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to my mom. My mom was an RAGA leader growing up in the church, and for all the old Southern Baptists, you know what RAGAs are. Right. So, but even before that, she also did children's, and I can remember sitting at the church that you used to serve at, where I grew up, and there was this hallway that went to the old Coakley Chapel section, to the what was then the children's, which are now the offices, administrative building. But there's this little glass door on the side there that led actually to a city park then. But I can remember sitting with my mom with some kids and singing the song, Yellow yellow,
red and yellow,
black and white.
Yeah, yeah.
They are precious in His sight.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a young child, I thought, God loves all people.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't care where they come from.
Yeah.
Doesn't care about nationality. That the gospel is for every single child, whether an American child,
That's
a
right.
Chinese child, a South American child, an African child. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then the other story I would say real quick is one, I've had the opportunity just to really be able to. Bolivia was a huge moment. I got to briefly disciple a young man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell the story much.
You got pictures in your office, yeah.
And he and his girlfriend had gotten pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
He was really tore up and deciding what to do. And we talked about the possibility of them getting an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's a lot to him. And at the end of that, they decided not to. And they recommitted to the church. And the missionaries, I went to them, make sure they knew the story. And that church just came around that couple and just cared for them. And it was like, these things really matter. Like, it's not gonna be every story, right? That was like first moment, like that never happens. You know, where you get to see that type of a story come out. And he came to me at the end of the week, how long we were there for, and gave me this bracelet and described what the different parts of the bracelet meant. And one was these two stones that were the tears of Jesus. That's what they were supposed to mean. And he talks about how his heart was broken for Jesus. And you know, if you can't go and hear those stories and have a heart, has God been at work in your own heart?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's what drives a lot, is that story.
Wow.
And then we did a trip to Africa several years, you know, after that, a few years after that actually, and it struck me as we were singing these songs in this language in Nigeria that I'd never heard the language before, right? But I could recognize the melody and the tempo, and it was the songs we would sing. And we were singing them in English, and they were singing them in whichever dialect that was. And I thought, I could see Revelation.
Yeah.
The tribes of and the tongues worshiping God.
That's good.
Not knowing what each other was saying, but God knew. And so, man, when I just look at missions, it's about those moments of knowing this is how God works. It's not all how we see it in America sometimes. It looks different. It's thatch huts, it's muddy rooms, it's messy, just as messy places we have here, our situations, and God's at work. And if we can join that,
that's cool.
It's joy.
What has been, I mean, that's a really cool story, but what has been like maybe a place that that you've traveled to that you remember the most?
They're all.
Yeah.
They're all there.
If you could move anywhere, where would it be?
Oh, you know where that is.
I know. Yeah. Tell them.
So we've done some work in London and Scotland.
Yeah.
I love Scotland.
Yeah.
Love the UK. It is just
if you could move anywhere though,
place. It would be London.
London. Okay. All right.
London, yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So and the people there, you know, they're. My first trip was over a decade ago, and you could see so much in Europe that was coming this way.
Yeah.
And it's hitting more and more.
Yeah.
And actually, you're starting to hear stories of Europe beginning to turn now back. I just think Europe's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what
I
appreciate about you so much. Just your perspective on things. You know, the experience that God's given you, your calling in life, kind of where you've been, what you've done, your love for the church,
right?
Your love for God's mission in the world, you know, and then this love for people, this real care for people, and that's evident in your life. It always comes out. Bobby's the kind of guy that, like, if you're in a room of all brand new folks, you can trust that Bobby's gonna go meet someone new and make them feel very comfortable and right at home. And I really appreciate the hospitality that you show so much.
You got to enjoy people.
That's right. That's good. Well, cool. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
You too, man.
Yeah.